All right, welcome on into the show. My name's Deny Gallagher, and I am joined by the snare campaign provocateur, the town liar himself, getting back behind the sticks tonight. It's Benny Horowitz. What's up, dude?
What's up, man? Getting ready for a New Brunswick basement show. It's been a long time. Only difference, I used to have like a ceremonial 40 ounce for every show. That was just part of playing a basement show. So my usual routine of having a 40, playing a show, hitting the grease trucks, I think I've aged out of that.
You've aged out of the grease trucks or the 40 or both?
Both.
Oh.
I got to find like a shot of wheatgrass before
No.
I go on now, to be able to do it. I don't know what I'm walking into, but I'm excited. I'm nervous.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the guys in the band asked me at practice the other day. He's like, do you get nervous? I'm like, yeah, I've been nervous for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's like, wow, that's cool. Figured you wouldn't get nervous anymore. I always get nervous.
Oh.
I want to do well,
Yeah.
Denny, I have a confession to make.
Oh, please.
It was me who leaked those government documents. It was me and my gamer chat room.
On Benny Horowitz's Discord?
Yeah, on my Discord. I have like a bevy of cis teenage boys who follow me on there. I really had to just drop some knowledge on them to make sure that they're informed about South Korea's inner politics.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, you want to know what segment, moving right along here, keeps us informed each and every week?
Watch list.
It's This Day Music History. All right, what do you got?
All right, this day in 1980, Judas Priest released the album British Steel, which, in hindsight now is one of, if not, the most important records of the new wave of British heavy metal, influencing, Maiden and Saxon and all these great bands. It may not be like their best record or their heaviest record, but I think they have a lot to do with the following wave of, you ever wonder why like Metallica was on MTV at all? Why like cock rock was on MTV at all, because of like what it was and how heavy it was. And Judas Priest with like Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight, like that's part of the reason was they made this real slick record with great hooks and the beautiful iconic art on the front with the hand holding the razor blade. And I think it had a lot to do with putting the new wave of heavy metal to the forefront and partially to the mainstream. Listen to this great story I dug up when they were in a house recording the record, and Rob Halford recalls a story where he says it was 4 a.m. and Glenn had set his stack setup downstairs from the room I was in. I was annoyed, so I went down and said, "Hey, Glenn, can you turn that down a bit because I can't sleep? 4 o'clock in the morning and you're living after midnight." Glenn's immediate reaction was, "Oh, that's a great song title for this tune. Check out these chord progressions." So that was the way they named Living After Midnight in classic band staying with each other fashion.
Yeah.
Rock and roll alarm clock,
I love it. And I love the visual idea that it took television to kind of make all of that entire movement go mainstream. So maybe with the rise of TikTok and people having these really produced like social media posts for their songs these days, maybe a whole new generation will find all of it.
I think so. You know what I wonder?
What
is I just imagine Rob Halford in like leather all the time, because he's famous for being a leather daddy.
Yeah.
But I wonder, this story, 4 a.m, what was Rob Halford wearing when he was trying
Underwear.
to sleep? Like, I don't know. Like, what if he had like proper jammies, like nightcap? He's still British guy. He might have like a little nightcap in his tea. Not sure.
Oh, well, I can just tell you, as somebody that creates from home for a corporation all of the time, since we're not on camera, the uniform is kind of shorts, no shirt, very much the the Taylor Hawkins, Chad Smith way to go about creating is just underwear and just get out there and do it.
How many episodes have we done where below the surface here you haven't been wearing pants? What do you need to tell me?
There's a reason we're talking about the David today.
Oh yeah. Danny getting giddy.
Oh,
all right, what do you got?
Shout out to Josh. All right. All right, Benny. On this day in 2003, a man was arrested because he was accused of making up a Bjork concert and selling tickets. Alex Canate, I hope that's how you pronounce his name, allegedly sold tickets worth $14,000 at $40 a pop, persuading a San Diego nightclub that Bjork had agreed to play there. He was accused of taking the money and then moving to Hawaii, and he was arrested in Hawaii. So this day, 2003.
How can you move to Hawaii with 14 grand? I mean, I guess it's enough to get there. I don't know what you're doing once you get there.
In 2003, I think it was a little bit more doable. Than
it's about $3 million inflation-wise, right?
Inflation-wise. Right. So, oh, man. Well, do you want to talk about inflation a little bit here?
My favorite.
I know, right? Imagine if we just became the economics podcast.
You should definitely take your advice from me.
All right, Benny. Our first thing here, we finally got an answer to one of music's great questions after 30 years. Did Diddy clear his sample of Every Breath You Take ahead of his 1997 hit, I'll Be Missing You? And the answer, Sting was on The Breakfast Club, and he answered the question.
Is it true that Diddy has to pay you $2,000 a day because he didn't ask permission to sample Every Breath You Take?
Yeah.
Wow.
For the rest of his life.
Wow.
No, that's a lie.
No, I read that before. Wow.
That's not true, is it?
But did he ask you for permission?
Yes, he did.
After the fact?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. It was after.
We're very good friends now.
Those Diddy NDAs are so strong.
Yeah.
So strong.
So, and it later came out where Diddy said that, no, it's not $2,000 a day.
Yeah.
It's $5,000 a day in perpetuity. Now, this is where I got to put a little bit of it into question, and they haven't resolved anything yet. If Diddy's actually paying $5,000 a day, I've done the math. It's $1.8 million a year. Is he making such a revenue still off that song that he can just cough up $1.8 million a year to Sting, along with probably a bunch of other people he has to pay for stealing their samples? Because apparently that was the style back then. $2,000 a day puts you at about $730,000 a year. But all I know is that Sting woke up one morning, called a lawyer, and just got way richer out of nowhere, But apparently this was the style back then. They talked about in the same interview that in those days of taking samples and putting them onto songs, they didn't ask permission. The whole style was to just put it out there and then settle whatever money thing you were going to have to do later. That was like their plan. Sounds like a shitty plan, but also who knows if Sting ever would have approved that sample in the first place.
100%.
So, maybe it's smart. Maybe.
Apparently after this, Diddy tweeted, oh, it's not true. I was being facetious with the whole 5K thing. But I think and this is one of those great things where it's you don't know where the line between the fiction and the truth is. There must have been a lot of money exchanged, even if it's not a Bobby Bonilla contract where it's going to run for 35 years. There was a piece of time there where Diddy had to pay Sting extensively.
Yeah, and bare minimum. I mean, you put $1.8 million over 30 years, you're looking at a good $45 million already off of this, Yeah. No wonder Sting looks so good.
Yeah.
Great skin. He could fuck all night, Jeez.
And he's not he's probably in a place where the sun happens a lot, not over there in Northern Europe.
Oh, so, no chance. No chance. I think he wakes up every day from some cryogenic chamber, goes straight into the sun of the earth into a cold pool. He's going to live to 140. He's still gonna be paying him apparently.
Yeah, 100%. And it doesn't matter if he's able to go with the billionaires to the moon, to Mars.
Doesn't matter.
Those checks still clear.
Crazy.
All right, next story here today. Benny, a charter school in Tallahassee, Florida, recently became news when parents complained about the inclusion of the famed David sculpture by Michelangelo in a 6th grade art history course. So, shout out to that school at first for having a art history course in 6th grade. But then the parents got involved, and apparently the debate was is because the David's junk is exposed and it's in the book, does that make it pornographic material? So the floor is yours here, Benny. Hot take question here. Is it David art or is it porn?
It's art.
Yeah. 100%.
It's not porn, I don't think. I mean, this is like, we're seeing the bizarre fallouts of this moral crusade that a certain sect of this country is on right now. And I feel like, they get to something like this. They watch so much like conservative media and get all worked up and get all angry, and then see this one tiny thing where like, oh, I get to do something now. I get to say something and jump all over it. But the idea that this is done with public decency in mind is what they claimed is the thing that really bothers me, because it's this like nitpicking of what is deemed public decency. I mean, for the most part, I'm going to go ahead and stereotype right now. This is the same crew who were flying like no more bullshit flags for my kids to read. Calvin with his little dick out pissing on Chevy logos. Their self-proclaimed leader, being okay with grabbing them by the pussy kind of guy. And if you ask me, the things that are protecting public decency is the idea that I could like, if I could with confidence send my kids to school without the idea of them getting mowed down by AR-15s, that feels really indecent to me. And they can see as many little fucking cement dicks as they want to if I was able to get that level of decency on a day-to-day life kind of way. So to me, this is a straight get the fuck out of here situation. I couldn't disagree with it more.
I just love the idea of, you're reading. I don't know if kids still read the World Book in Encyclopedia, and they're going through, and like, what parent doesn't know that like what the David actually is? And it's like the depiction, it's a biblical depiction. Their beloved Bible.
It's fucking middle school.
Yeah.
Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, this is just part of this overall overarching nonsensical crusade that helps fucking nobody.
Yeah.
Like, if you really think that this statue is going to go ahead and sexualize your children,
right?
Well, it's the same people who probably think like any number of things are sexualizing their children. But turn on the fucking E channel for about 4 minutes and I'll find 100 things that I find more indecent than this.
So, all right. Well, Benny has spoken. I'm excited for Fox News to give you up a call. And
please,
hey,
please get me on an interview show with. You know what? I don't even want to. I couldn't be in the same room with Tucker.
Oh my gosh,
it wouldn't go well for me. It wouldn't go well for me.
May go well for tour dates and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'll just get sued because I'm not. These are pros at bullshit. I'm just like a regular dude who has an opinion, and everyone's like, oh, I'd like to give someone like that a piece of my. You can't give someone like that a piece of your mind, like all you can do in a room with Tucker Carlson is choose to beat the shit out of him or not.
Right.
Someone like me anyway, because I don't think we're going to get through a healthy, robust debate where he's actually listening to my opinions. It's not even on the it's not on the table,
Opinion in general has become so hard. And I know that's ironic because we sit here talking on YouTube about different things and stuff like that, but I'm still on the Twitter from the phone cleanse, and it's been so good. And just not wanting to consume any of this toxic information, which I think is people spending too much time on their Facebooks and their Twitters is where a lot of this comes from.
Sure.
And I think we all just need a bit of a cleanse. Hey, maybe this is the summer of no internet. Get outside, go for a jog.
I couldn't be with you. You know what I've said many times on this program. I think social media and our consumption of it currently will be akin to something like smoking cigarettes in the 80s.
Yeah.
At some point, they're really, really, really going to expose how dangerous and toxic this was to people and start to put some limitations on it. But probably not until too late, because
Yeah.
that's usually when we take action.
This wasn't in the rundown, but a bunch of companies that have lost their verification on Twitter, like the New York Times, NPR was a big one. So the moment all of these people start to get off of your platform, you lose that $44 billion valuation like really quickly.
Oh, yeah. Twitter's going down the shitter for sure.
So I don't know where sports fans are going to go to talk their shit, but I guess we got to find a new platform.
Discord, apparently.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You're really into that today. You're really into that. All right. Well, let's move on to something else that one country is finding the long-lasting effects of gambling, and they're wanting to go the other direction. The Premier League has revealed that it will no longer allow clubs to partner with gambling companies for its front of shirt sponsorships. This league is the first in the UK to adopt the measure, and the effective ban will take place in the 2025-2026 season. This in comparison to the U.S., who every single league and their brother is getting involved with gambling. The Washington Capitals were the first NHL team to announce a jersey patch deal with Caesar Sportsbook. The Golden Knights and Coyotes have the same thing. And they've even added, some of them have even added sportsbooks to their arenas themselves. So it's kind of interesting. The U.S. is on this. Europe seems to be on the way out of being so closely associated to gambling. Is this whole thing just cyclical?
Yeah, probably. I mean, so this decision that got brought down, is this like, we're morally opposed to doing this, or we're concerned about our league being infiltrated with gamblers?
It's mainly it's only the front of the shirt sponsor. So like if you go to the stadium, they'll still have the sports books there. The ads will still be in the hall there. It's just the front of the shirt, which kind of doesn't make sense.
But what I'm asking is where's the impetus for this? Like, are they concerned that people are meddling with their games, meddling with their referees in order to carry out the gambling? Or is this like, oh, we're morally opposed to like online gambling and like how big it's got?
It doesn't seem to be morally opposed. I don't know, because it has been able to do. It's been able to give some smaller clubs like a huge boon to like lift up their entire club. So I'm not sure if it is the moral reasonings, but I think like we've seen a bunch. It's when you have so much and gambling is so accepted, it has really affected fan behavior, and I think that's what they're trying to curb.
Yeah. I heard a lot of people, this extra vitriol people have for someone who like fucks up a point spread or something like that. Like that's happening in American sports too now. But money talks, and these are fucking huge companies that are, I don't know, again, preying off people's weakness, because most of the people who use, I'm sure a great deal of people who use these things use them fairly responsibly and don't put too much money in and do it for fun. But there's a reason there's Gamblers Anonymous. There's a reason why people gotta say these phone numbers for 25 different states, when you're doing a DraftKings ad or something. It's because it can be really dangerous and it ruins people's lives. So there's got to be a line somewhere, but where capitalism decides to draw that line, who knows?
And it's keeping my entire business afloat right now. I mean, like with the newspapers and everything going out, the gambling companies have stepped right in. Every single podcast you love is somehow affiliated with one of these people. And I'm not listening. And even like Sports Center, which, for the longest time was the holdout, and they couldn't even talk about gambling. They've got lines on the TV now.
Oh, yeah. And they have lines at stadiums. Yeah. Like, sitting there talking about lines. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, you're not even, they've wet the whistle so much at this point. Like, you're not even just like, oh, I bet this game. In the third quarter of a game, you could still be on your phone, fucking with these prop bets and these little things. Like, man, they really know how to turn us into hamsters.
And for the most part, the gambling is good because most people just have fun with it.
Yeah.
But it's the crazies and the rise in people verbally assaulting, even physically assaulting some of these athletes. I mean, in the NBA, we've seen this so much. That's where the problem is. And I don't know what in this country we're going to do about it, but the UK seems to have figured out what they want to do.
I mean, just the one thing people always got to remember is the people who set the lines know way more than you'll ever know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they got teams and teams of people, software, like literally like smart computers just sitting there calculating odds to make sure that these companies don't lose money. So like if you really think that, your day-to-day I have a hunch gambler is going to wind up greatly on top with these companies, like it's just not going to happen. Like, I'm sorry. As smart as you are, it's just not going to happen.
And as a sports fan, like my whole life, like loving it and everything, the moment I got introduced to gambling and heard, oh, when you pick the games, they go 2.5, a half point, I was like, this is bullshit. I'm so out on this. I'm not doing this. I hate that.
I got out of gambling when I owed a guy named Adrock a whole lot of money at some point. So luckily I didn't even make it to the online before I got my scares,
Oh. All right. Well, next headline today, Benny. The Washington Commanders, one of the worst ownership tenures in American sports history, the Dan Snyder era. That's been well documented. We've well documented it here. That appears to be coming to a close as Josh Harris, a name that we may know in NBA circles, has reached an agreement in principle with the Washington Commanders for the $6 billion purchase of the franchise. The deal between Snyder and Harris, who Harris is the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers, who is trying his darndest to get that downtown stadium by the Terminal Market made in Philadelphia, is adding the Commanders to his growing portfolio. The bid also includes Magic Johnson, which I think is historically, I don't know how many black minority owners there are in the NFL, but this seems groundbreaking that the owners would actually approve letting Magic Johnson in. So shout out to Magic for once again being a trailblazer. Mm-hmm. Harris's bid was picked, especially after there was speculation that Bezos would try to come in and make a run for the team as well. So what do you make of Josh Harris taking over the Commanders?
I mean, I think at the very least, there's like probably 30 to 31 other owners right now in the NFL going, whew, thank goodness. Because, this has been one of those things that I think it's a parody they would have liked to get rid of a long time ago. Like that there's been well reported, toxic environment surrounding Dan Snyder for years and years and years. And like, a story that they couldn't get rid of in one of the biggest and best football markets in America. So I think like the NFL and all the other owners and everyone is probably really relieved that not only did, Snyder agree to it, that it looks like it's on the table and it's going to happen. And then, some people with ownership acumen are actually coming into the thing. So I think on that level, it's a good thing. You want this guy out of the league. You want him out of your business. I mean, I think it's a huge reflection of how, when you're at a certain point of rich, you can just fail up over and over and over again. The idea that the amount of money Dan Snyder is going to actually pocket by fucking up for so long is extraordinary. You know what I mean? This would be, such game changer money, especially for a city like DC. So, I mean, that's the ugly part of this, the kind of Donald Sterling effect where you can just be an absolute piece of shit and bank on it. But I think it's a good thing. Between the name change and the ownership change, this is a team I can actually like look at again through a different lens and through a different optic. And I hope, the same for their fans, because, they didn't ask for any of this shit. Yeah. And maybe they get to just like root for their team without any snake oil on their hands now,
And you've got to be thrilled if you're a Commanders fan here. I mean, like the 76ers are an organization. Hey, they've kept Embiid happy. They built up a winning culture. For the most part, I think that they make good hiring practices. One of the I wouldn't say the Sixers are like a model franchise in the NBA, but they're certainly one of the ones that they're always competing. And as a fan, that's all you want.
I mean, they haven't won a ring since the 70s.
But they're in they're in the hunt. They're in the hunt, man. They're in the hunt.
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that. Let's see them get through my Nets first.
Oh.
Just kidding. Just
Hey,
kidding.
man. Saturday, Philly. Who
That's
says
it.
no? All right. Let's move over to baseball here a little bit, Benny. Back at it. Oh my gosh. I am loving a 2-hour baseball game.
It's amazing.
Now, on TV, awesome. But when I go to a game, I want it to be 4 hours, and I want at least 2.5 hours of drinking Bud Light Lime in the right field.
I'm the exact opposite. As big as a baseball fan as I am, I love Yankee Stadium. I've probably been to hundreds of games at Yankee Stadium at this point. And I don't think there's ever been a time after 9 innings of baseball that I'm like, yeah, give me more baseball. I'm ready by that point. I am. After 3 hours, after X amount of beers, you time it all out. You're like, okay, 4th inning. I'm going to get this 20-something ounce beer. I'm going to get these garlic cheese fries, and I'm going to be set till the end of the game. I'll be dead by the end of the game, and then I just take off, and I'm good. And then you get like an extra hour, and I'm like, oh, God, someone hit a home run and end this, please. I need to go home. This has turned into a 13-hour day to see some baseball. So, honestly, I'm like, me, I've fully been in the camp for years about changes in baseball because I'm as big as a baseball fan as there is. And the idea that I used to basically read a book as I watch baseball games has been a problem. And the idea that I don't have to watch guys spit and shuffle their balls for 25 seconds between every pitch anymore. Oh my God, I fucking love it. I love it. The one thing that I think is getting taken away that I did appreciate about baseball is your Juan Sotos of the world. The guys who step into the box, do all this funny stuff. It's to fuck with the pitcher. And I think like guys like that have spent their entire careers kind of harvesting this style and this way they do things to get in there and kind of fuck with a pitcher. So, I think guys like that are losing out a little bit. Obviously, Manny Machado doesn't like it. But from a fan perspective, from a viewing perspective, I couldn't love it anymore. I think it's a great thing so far.
How long would your Chuck Knoblauchs and your Nomar Garciaparras last in the pitch clock era? 2-year career.
I mean, it's like a whole different style. It's different.
I
but yeah, I think I think it's playing the way like a sport needs to be played these days. And it's just like, I know it's one of the old games. It's a classic game. But if you're really trying to keep up with these other sports with such an effective and entertaining product, like football and soccer and basketball, these games that just move and move and move. And you're expecting in the TikTok age to watch somebody, shuffle through the things we had to shuffle through. It just didn't make any sense anymore. And this is a great change for baseball. I'm stoked about it.
And they're fortunate enough to have one of probably the best stories in sports so far in 2023 to start off this season with the Tampa Bay Rays. They've started off the season 13-0. The Rays are heading to Toronto, trying to set the Major League Baseball's post 1900 record for consecutive wins at the start of the season. Tampa Bay is... Hold on, sorry about this. So when you look at it, at baseball and the Rays in terms of the historical precedents, the only longer streak than what they're doing now was by the 1884 St. Louis Maroons of the Union Association, and they started the season 20-0. The Rays have won all of their games by 2 or more runs, and have outscored opponents 1 101 to 30. So just an unbelievable start to the season for the Rays. How much have you enjoyed watching this story thus far?
I mean, in the same division as the Yankees.
so not
So,
great.
don't love it in that idea. But the thing I do love about it is how it's kind of flipping baseball on its ears in a lot of ways. And the Rays have been doing this for a number of years now. Their total payroll for this season is 74 million, which I think ranks in the bottom 5 in the league. So the San Diego Padres method of putting a team together currently, or the Yankees or the Red Sox, the Dodgers, like any of the big players economically, the Rays for years now have been showing this model of talent finding, of how to utilize starting and relief pitchers, optimally better than anybody else in the league. And I think it's kind of, you watch a team like as a novice baseball fan, how many guys even on the Rays can somebody know or mention?
Yeah.
Even the novice baseball fan might be like, oh, that's Randy or Rosarena, or they're Wander Franco, because he was a big prospect, or Brandon Lowe, because that's a last name people recognize. But like, they have no superstars. They have no premier players like that they had to lock up for a long time, and they've been actually a team that feeds players to bigger teams for years and years, and they adapted. And I got to give them credit for just being one of, if not the smartest organization in baseball to pull this off. And I'm here for it. I think it's a lot of fun. They literally have one player on the roster this season making more than $10 million a year,
Crazy.
which is Zach Eflin. It's not like they went out and signed Max Scherzer or something. So I am here for it. And I love when, 130-year-old records get broken by a team like the Tampa Rays. I think it's a lot of fun.
Didn't they also lose their head of their president of baseball development and stuff like that a few years ago after they made that ALCS run, and then they retooled with front office personnel that kept this thing going? Absolutely unbelievable. Speaking, we talked about the Sixers making good hiring practices. The Tampa Bay Rays always just seem to get it right, and it's good to see. Now, if only they could get a ballpark.
Yeah, I literally just walked by that stadium the other day. It is a funky stadium. You're better playing at Steinbrenner Field when you're down there instead of that weird dome. But, gives it character, right?
Yeah. Whatever happened to that plan to go back and forth between Montreal and Tampa? I like that. That was fun.
Yeah. I think they realized it was stupid.
Summertime Montreal would have been fun for baseball.
Montreal deserves a team, 100%. But this idea of a team shifting around, I mean, it just doesn't work, especially come playoff World Series time. What are you supposed to do about that?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm here for the Rays. I just hope after they go 14-0, they go on a bit of a losing streak, and the Yanks work their way up.
I love it. All right, well, let's move to the hardwood now, Benny, shall we? And it's postseason time.
Yeah.
We cut out during the dog days, but we're back for the playoffs. And I want to go through each of these series one by one, kind of get your take your temperature on everything. And we got to start with arguably one of the most interesting matchups of the first round. LA Clippers, Phoenix Suns, Kawhi Leonard versus Kevin Durant. Chris Paul trying to get back to an NBA Finals and win one this time. The timetable for Paul George coming back and getting back in the flow with the Clippers. All of these interesting things. We got Ishba versus Ballmer in the C-suite level. So what do you make of Clippers Suns first round?
I think to continue the narrative of the Clippers of the last few years, it comes down to health. And if they were going into this series with a healthy Paul George, I would give the Clippers a fighting chance to get through this series, because, that's a dynamic 1-2 that's been gearing up all season to be able to play a 7-game series. Kawhi played his first back-to-back since 2021, the last night of the regular season. So, but, without Paul George, I'm really seeing a hard time of the Clippers keeping up with the Suns and a healthy Kevin Durant, the model of efficiency through the league. So for now, if I don't see Paul George for the first 2-3 games, I think we're looking at like a Suns in 6 kind of scenario.
Yeah, I think the other interesting thing, people have this whole time have just been assuming that, oh, Kevin Durant plug and play with this team.
Yeah.
We'll see what, this is by no stretch like a walkover for Phoenix here.
No.
But I think that there's a real opportunity. Kevin Durant has a lot to prove, especially after last postseason, to come out, be effective. And Suns have a lot to prove as well. They want to get over that hump, so it's going to be very interesting to see there. The thing that I want to look ahead to with the Clippers here is I think some heads may roll this offseason when it comes to Ty Lue, when it comes to the combination of Paul George and Kawhi, if they cannot get it done in this series.
Yeah. No, this is, if they lose in the first round here, I think, it's a little bit of shit or get off the pot time. But that being said, Ty Lue's not really the problem. It's been a mixture of getting two highly undependable players together to be your core. And, the fact that they're going to go into this Sun series with the starting lineup that's including Eric Gordon and Nicholas Batum and Zubac. And, it just didn't, they hamstrung themselves so much with that trade and so much financially with two players that one of those players goes down, your chances are almost nil,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I also go with you there. Suns in 6, heck, maybe even 5. But, with the way that Kawhi was playing,
Leonard,
yeah.
He can put a game or two on his back for sure. They have some interesting pieces. And, this always goes down to the other thing. Can the Suns stay healthy?
Yeah, 100%.
One of those guys goes down, then it's a completely different story. And they have a lot of players susceptible to going down. So we'll see. But it's tough to see them getting past the Suns.
All right, next series here we have Denver, who kind of, they kind of stumbling into this postseason versus the Timberwolves or Oklahoma City. That will be decided by the time that we get to
Tonight.
in like my mind, I was trying to do the calculus. I was like, wait a minute, did that game all already happen? No, but
tonight.
The story in this first round is, will Denver be able to reclaim their form from a month ago as they try to get toward also a make or break run in this playoffs?
I have a funny feeling about Denver. I've heard a lot of things, the other way. I'm a little shocked at, what their odds are to win the title at this point. I mean, I think they're 400-1 odds at this point. I think they have a chip on their shoulder. I think the X factor for the Nuggets is Michael Porter Jr. You've seen, Jokic is partially a system player, and he needs to run the system, and the system needs to be running for him to be the most effective. But when it comes to playoff time, you need someone out there on a team who can just flat out make shots, make tough shots, get on a heater. And I've seen some indications from Michael Porter Jr. this year that he's got a chip on his shoulder. He sees himself as more of a superstar than he's given credit for. And I think he's a strange X factor for the Nuggets going into this. And if we see any kind of MPJ coming out party in these playoffs, I think with the way the West looks and how open it is, I do still think they have a real chance. And I don't put them, as 4th or 5th as a lot of the prognosticators have them right now. I do think they obviously have some serious problems with their bench. They don't trust a lot of people. Zeke Najee's back. That helps a little bit. At least you keep DeAndre Jordan, Thomas Bryant on the bench. But the Nuggets have problems. I don't see them not getting through either the Timberwolves or OKC, who gets through there. But, long term for this playoffs, I'm curious about how they come out in this first series and the way that, specifically the way Porter is going to look. And that will give me an indication of how far they can go, I think.
The problem with Porter here, right, is that he almost needs to have number 2 shot opportunities, because when was the best we saw Michael Porter Jr.? When Jamal Murray was out and him and Nikola Jokic played that 2-man game. You get Jamal Murray back in there, he needs to get into that 3 role for the scoring. And also at time his defense has been suspect, which is something that he's very much trying to been improving as later on in the season. But I don't know when Michael Malone is going to have to try to like get him in and get him out to try to get his shot creation. It just that's for me where Denver's going to have to figure things out.
Well, I think that's kind of brings up the point of what I brought up earlier is like you get to a playoff series like this, there are going to be times when they're so focused in the other guys that someone just has to be someone you can hand the ball to and they go make their own shot. With his size, with his athleticism, the way he can shoot from the outside, I think he's the guy on that team who's going to be tasked with doing that. And that's where I think he's such an important X factor for the Nuggets.
Plus side, you have a 3rd star. Downside, you have a guy that wants to be there, but he may not get the opportunity. So
and credit to them. They shut down Jamal Murray last year. To get him healthy for the season, and he's healthy for the season. He's healthy for the playoffs. So, that's not also a huge X factor and someone who has shown themselves to be a gamer,
Well, we're going to move to a series now that has a handful of gamers. Sacramento, Golden State. Sacramento, the darlings of the regular season. Benny, will this translate to the postseason for Sacramento?
It kills me to say this. I hate saying it because I love Sacramento this year.
Yeah.
I went to see them play the Nets, not to see the Nets.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the Kings play. So, as much as I love what they did this year, such a fun upstart group, what they haven't been in the playoffs since 06?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Drought in sports. Yeah.
So I really love what they're doing, but I got to jump on the bandwagon with this too. I mean, the Warriors are the Warriors, defending champions, been through it so many times. There's, no one on the Kings that I don't think they don't have an answer for. Wiggins was not out because of a health reason. He was out for a personal reason, which should make readapting to the starting lineup important. He's crucially important to them getting through, 3 series in the West. Gary Payton is healthy. So, besides for the Warriors eating shit, on the road this year, all indications to me point to the Warriors getting out of this series and making a real run in the West, as much as it pains me to say for the Kings, because I really do love them this year.
See, and here's the thing where it's like pedigree versus the upstart. If you're going by the model of who are the best players that you want to have right now, you'd want Sabonis and Fox, because in this series there's going to be a lot of Fox versus Curry, but we've just seen Curry get the upper hand in this far too often, so it's kind of hard to go with Fox there. But I mean, and then also like we haven't even mentioned Sabonis in this, who honestly in my opinion should be in the all NBA like first team conversation here.
Sure.
So in this series, I mean, when you're looking at Sabonis and Fox versus the likes of whatever Clay can be this series, it creates a interesting thing to look at.
Well, I think that's where the depth of it too comes in. Is like, how much. I don't think the Warriors were playing possum or anything like that, but they just know how to step up to the occasion. They know exactly what to do in those occasions. And like, Clay is what he is now. He's not what he wasn't, but there's going to be 2 games a series where Clay gets hot and hits 6 3-pointers, hits 7 3-pointers. He's still got that touch. And like, it's those kinds of X factors where like, you start putting these rosters together, and I'm looking at like, what are the Kings going to be doing when we're in the bench time? What are we going to be doing when we're getting into the depth? I do think they'll give them a hard time. I just don't think they can defend yet on the level that's going to get past the Warriors, I'm afraid.
Fun note about this series: 20 players this season made 200 or more 3-pointers. 5 of them are in this series:
Wow.
Curry, Thompson, Jordan Poole, Kevin Huerter, and Keegan Murray.
It's impressive.
Yeah,
It's impressive.
So depth all around.
Yeah, this is going to be a burner of a series for sure.
If only they were getting Denver in the first round, then Denver may be in trouble.
Does Draymond Green hit anybody in the testicles this series?
Or what shit does Jordan Poole get into? Jordan Poole and Keegan Murray.
Something. Yeah, you think so? That's what's going on?
I don't know. There seems to be a lot of fighting recently for like no reason. I mean, granted, well, in Minnesota,
hopefully he throws a Gobert punch in the shoulder, instead.
All right, keeping it in the Western Conference. Memphis versus Los Angeles. Dylan Brooks versus LeBron James. A whole conversation about the newly acquired depth here with the Lakers, and also a potential series for Anthony Davis to try to reemerge as one of the top guys in this league. So, Lakers, Grizzlies, who you got here?
I'm bucking trends on this one.
Yeah,
because I watched the Lakers play the Timberwolves. I watched the Lakers a lot this season. This idea that this group is just going to turn it on, and be like a championship contender seriously doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Besides for the idea that LeBron James is on the team and Anthony Davis has a good game, one every out of 3 or something like that, where he's dominant. On paper, I know you're looking at like, oh, Steven Adams is out, Brandon Clark is out. They're going to eat him up down low. I mean, besides for Anthony Davis, who are they fucking eating him up with? And that's where just D'Angelo Russell already got benched for most of this game, and you're going to Dennis Schroeder. This is against the fucking Timberwolves.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'm looking at Memphis as having a huge chip on their shoulder, being, way more athletic as far as the guards and wings go. A bunch of people who can give you problems all over the court, shooting all over the court. I think Memphis is going to win this series. Yeah. I think the Lakers might have a couple real pound and ground games, but LeBron takes every other possession off just to stay on the floor for 40 minutes. Every time Anthony Davis falls down, he gives me the Aaron Judge kind of quivers, because I think something's about to happen. So I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks just Memphis's athleticism, the chip they have going into this, the kind of ruffles they've made in playoff series already with some of this group. I think Memphis gets out of this series. I do.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers have played like they had a easier schedule down the stretch. They got a lot of their hard games out at the beginning of the season. Real test for them. For a lot of people post All-Star break, the Lakers were the story, the feel-good story. But Memphis is proven at this point. I mean, they haven't gotten a finals, but they've gone far enough to be respected. So it's easy to go with LeBron and AD. They do have a championship. But depth here, man, you got to go with Memphis here.
I think so too. Let's just get, if Jaren Jackson Jr. can stay in the court for 30 minutes a game, that might be the X factor here.
100%. All right, let's move to the Eastern Conference. Let's start with the Milwaukee Bucks versus either the Heat or the Bulls. Big story in this one, either way, is going to be Chris Middleton. And last year we saw him go down. Bucks weren't able to get to the NBA Finals and have a shot at a championship. They've been very cautious with him at the end of the season. What do you think we'll see from the Bucks and Middleton in the first round?
Well, I mean, luckily for them, I think either of the two teams they're going to roll. The thing I'd be most interested to see is how Milwaukee plays this series. It's like, are we fully in the playoffs already, and are we going to try to sweep them, give ourselves a little extra rest and do that? Like, how locked in is Milwaukee going to be game one, or are they willing to allow a game or two going to another team? I don't think so. It's hard for me to see either Chicago or Miami giving the Bucks much of a hard time. But I think your X factor for the rest of the playoffs is the real thing to watch. How does Middleton look? Because obviously when you get to the Bostons, Phillies, the other teams they might have to play, you're going to need him at a pretty peak situation to be there. But I think they're going to roll either of these teams.
They've done their best to try to cover that by adding Jay Crowder. The Joe Ingles has come on at the end of the season. They've given Dragic some minutes at the end of the season. So last year it was like Middleton or bust. This year they have a couple different options. Bobby Portis has tried to take things to the next level, so it will be interesting to see Milwaukee there.
Bobby Portis going to be in the top 3 and 6th man of the year.
I love it. I have him winning
boy.
it. I have him winning it.
You have him winning it. Oh,
yeah.
All right.
We probably won't get to awards like that today, but hey, we'll see. All right. Brooklyn, Philadelphia. Great series here. The hype train has already started about having a week for the Nets and Spencer Dinwiddie to try to figure out how to guard Joel Embiid. The Nets trying to find a weakness in the Sixers, which has been pretty tough to find of late. And then, trying to get Embiid off the floor. That's what the Nets are going to be looking at. From the Sixers perspective, it's going to be how healthy is James Harden, another big X factor in this first round. So Nets Sixers, what are you thinking here?
As optimistic as I'd like to be, especially with some of the storylines, like Mikal Bridges, Philly boy going back home, spurned by the Sixers on draft day for Zaire Smith, one of the all-time worst draft day moves for sure. Seth Curry, former part of that team, Ben Simmons sitting on the bench in great sweaters, somewhat cheering along with his butt pad. But, as a Nets fan, I think there's the record of the Nets is a little disorienting because so much of that record was created when Kevin Durant was on the team. And, they were on some great win streaks. And I think, people expected them to shit the bed when this trade went down. Oh, the Nets are a playoff team now, or a play-in team. And I think they exceeded expectations a little bit in the fact that they kind of kept it together with this unit. But I think the record and them being a 6 seed is partially an indication of what they did earlier in the year with not this group. And when I'm actually matching them up on paper and I'm looking at this and some of the offensive games Bridges had towards the end of the season, I mean, there was a lot of 6 of 21s and I watched the Nets a lot, as and there was a whole lot of possessions where Mikal Bridges was chucking up a 3-pointer with 3 seconds left on the clock because they just couldn't get anything going out there. Yeah. They're an easy team to defend. Every time Embiid has gone up against Claxton, it's a fucking nightmare. He's got like 100 pounds on him, and he just knocks him around. And as much as I would like to say the Nets are going to give him a hard time, I think they might give him a hard time a game or two. They'll come out with some interesting stuff. They have some interesting lineups they can throw out to kind of maybe throw Philly off, and I assume they'll do that. But I would be surprised to see the Nets take more than 2 games. I'm got to take Philly in 6 here.
I think we get one Bridges game because, to try to put the punctuation on the end of his regular season where we kind of saw an evolution from a guy who has got solid minutes in Phoenix to a guy who at times we saw could be the guy. I mean, granted, like high usage, like you said. So we get one of those, but I think Philly has it going right now, and I think it's going to be really tough for Brooklyn to stop.
Yeah, same.
All right. To Boston Celtics, Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks, a team who, they've had their own tumultuous season. The Trae Young trade talks have been hot as the regular season comes to a close, which is never what you want. The Quinn Snyder era in Atlanta has just been wacky. But despite all of that, here they are up against Boston first round. Do you think Atlanta can win a game here?
Yeah, maybe one. Yeah, something like that. I couldn't think of a tougher matchup for Atlanta, and that's the problem. I mean, Boston and what they do to undersized guards is pretty ridiculous. And, Atlanta's literal framework is undersized guards. So, I do think that they might be able to eke out something here. I like the way that they have them playing. Sadiq Bey was a great, last minute squeeze into that roster. I don't know if they stay on the course they did if they don't have them, but I don't have a lot of confidence in Atlanta taking more than a game of this series.
Yeah, because when you think of the Hawks, you think of Trey's 3-point shooting, but this season Al Horford has been shooting 44% from three. Time Lord absolutely fucking doing it.
And then on any given night, you're going to be having Jaylen Brown, who's really not built like a guard these days. No. Just steamrolling these fucking guys, getting whatever he wants. Boston's deep. They have all. You got Peyton Pritchard putting up triple doubles at the end of the year. So, yeah, I don't see him going too far. And I think Atlanta is one of the big. What are they going to do this offseason teams, after this? But you do got to say, in the Trae Young, Luka Doncic narrative.
Oh, that's hard now.
Listen, one of them didn't make the playoffs. Yeah. One of them boofed it for the playing game. One of them kept them 500 all year and got themselves in as a 7 seed. I don't know. Trae won this year.
The last thing I'll say about this series, Hawks, against the Heat, they relied on second chance opportunities. You're not going to get that against Boston. So I think that this one's going to be very quick. And then if the Brooklyn-Philadelphia series goes longer and Boston's able to get this done in, say, 4 or 5 games, once again, advantage Boston. That's the one that we're really going to be looking at.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Oh, then the darling series here, the absolute darling series, the New York Knicks, Cleveland Cavaliers. The story from the offseason. The Knicks wanted Donovan Mitchell. Instead, they got Jalen Brunson, who Jalen Brunson has become a bona fide star in this league. You've got just everything that you want here. Mitchell, homecoming, playoff basketball, back at MSG. What do you make of this series?
Great series. This might be the one I'm most excited to watch for the first, because of the narrative and because of how nicely matched up these teams are. I think Julius Randle's health has been a little overlooked.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge factor, and in order to get through Cleveland, they're going to need Randle doing his Randle stuff the entire series. But I see this so matched up that I'm going quickly to X factors.
Yeah.
And to me, the X factor of this series is Donovan Mitchell. And I think when push comes to shove and you need a basket, you need late game heroics, you need someone who is going to step up and shine in the moment. I put my faith in Donovan Mitchell when it goes to that. So I think it's going to be a great series. I think New York definitely takes a couple. It's going to be tough to beat them at the Garden. But in the end, I got Cleveland in 7 because of, the Donovan Mitchell X factor and the fact that I thought we saw a slightly progressed Evan Mobley towards the last couple months of the season, who's, month by month turning into the player that everybody thought he could be. So, yeah, I got Cleveland in about 7 with this one.
Massive. Who is the best player in this series, because there is as we stand right now, and I know this will be answered in a week or so from now, but you can debate Jalen Brunson or Donovan Mitchell, who's the best player in this series. My money is on Donovan Mitchell. I think he is a first-team all NBA this season, but the debate can be had.
Donovan Mitchell's a better player than Jalen Brunson.
But when it comes to having more around them right now, and who's done more with less this season, I think Jalen Brunson has done more with less. Getting a team that was a 8 seed up into the 4-5 spot, I think that's huge.
I will tell you, Darius Garland is fast.
Yeah.
That guy get end-to-end quick. And, that's where, New York's going to have to pull the full Mitchell Robinson, plug him up, try to slow this game down as much as they can to get through this thing.
But you don't think, say the Knicks win, say Jalen Brunson's amazing. You don't think that people will be like, Jalen Brunson better than Donovan Mitchell?
If that actually happens, then we can have that conversation. Sure.
But it's in it's in
It's in
like,
the ether.
offering.
I'll
Like,
give
it
you
could
that. I'll
happen.
give
Yeah,
you
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Sure, it's on the
All
table.
right. And hopefully Danny Green gets to play this series because he's
Yeah.
been missing in action.
Might
So
not see too much of Danny.
do you want to shelve our awards conversation? Or
Yeah.
all right.
Who cares?
Plenty of ways to get in contact with the show. You can email us at the tuneuppodcast@gmail.com. 2 P's in there. Follow us on all the social platforms at TuneUpHQ on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you want to follow the big man on Instagram, he is at Benny Horowitz. I'm at Deny Gallagher. Benny's got the big show tonight, but do you have anything else?
Everybody love everybody. Keep the cement dicks out.
The show is ended. Go in peace. You've been listening to and watching The Tune Up.